bodybuilding has the potential to be not just an addiction, but arguably an obsession.
At least in my experience, even in other sports with top athletes, I mean, the top of the top in other sports.
I'm on the same page. And I'll be honest, this is a therapy session for me. This is what's been on my brain for quite a while. And I go back and forth with that addiction. Is bodybuilding an addiction? At what point can it become an addiction? Is it not an addiction, but simply a vain endeavor that we sometimes obsess over? Are we protecting ourselves from the world by building a costume of muscle? There's a lot to unwrap here. Usually we talk about how to optimize training, but today we're going to talk about what motivates us to spend so much time and money chasing more muscle or the perfect physique.
Obsession. Obsession.
Of course, I'm Skip Hill. My guest today is Dr. Kiko Suarez, a mental performance coach who's been helping executives and athletes reach their full potential for over 20 years. He's a university professor, an education executive, and a certified expert in high performance for sports competition. Dr. Kiko holds a doctorate in leadership and change and runs a private practice focused on mindset, mastery, and sustainable peak performance. Welcome to the show, Dr. Kiko.
Thank you very much for having me.
I posit today that bodybuilding, or everything that it entails, has the potential to be not just an addiction, but arguably an obsession. I don't know what the terminology is. That's why I brought someone smart on the show to talk about it with. I also posit that it doesn't have to be either one to be successful in bodybuilding. What say you, Dr. Kiko?
Yeah, well, that's a very interesting way to start because it can be actually both. It can become an unfocused or unconscious obsession, and that could lead to addiction, right? So addiction is more something that you cannot control physically, and obsession is more mental. And still, you can be obsessed mentally with something, and you can tune out a lot of things, and all of a sudden you become dysfunctional, right? So it's all about the healthy relationship with the things you do. Even if you are at the top level, right? You have all these elite athletes. Not all of us are in the top echelon of things.
Right.
But, you know, some of them you could argue they are obsessed.
Or we want to be there, but we're not there yet.
Right, exactly. And probably you have tons of clients. I'm going to ask you, I mean, I'm pretty sure you have clients that are not necessarily the super top athletes, and still you see some of those same obsessive behaviors, right?
Oh, I would argue that there may be more of that at those lower levels.
Interesting.
I work with the top level guys too. I've been doing this for a long time, back when we used to lift stones with wooden, anyway. I have a visual of like the Flintstones, but I dated myself with that reference too. Yeah, there's a lot going on at that middle or that basic middle ground level, state level, regional level, because we're reaching, as competitors, we're reaching for those things going, okay, we're leaving something on the table. I have to make sure that I've turned over every stone. What am I doing? I need to be better mentally prepared. I need to do more. This industry is noted for, when in doubt, do more cardio, do more training, less calories. I need to do more cardio. I'm not doing enough. So we err on that side. And of course, that doesn't typically work, because the rules don't say the harder you work or the more you do, the bigger you get or the leaner you get. Not everyone wants to stand on stage in a thong, but they might want to look like they do. You might be thinking, this guy is old. How could he possibly get me into my best condition, teach me how to optimize my training, and save me time while doing it? I have mediocre genetics, and it's a safe bet you do too. I can show you how to capitalize on your less than gifted genetics and get you into incredible condition in 2026 without a ton of cardio and maybe even eating pancakes on the weekend. You don't need to make 150,000. You don't need to eat chicken and rice every day, and you don't need to shave your taint, unless, of course, you want to. What you do need to do is reach out to me and let's discuss your goals for 2026. 25 years of online coaching, 41 years of training, 35 years of competing. That's a lot of experience and wisdom. Reach out and let's discuss your goals. So there has to be balance in there. And I have to be careful here because I can go a million different directions. But I see addiction. I think we all kind of have our own definition that might not fit exactly what the definition of addiction is. I think we use the term kind of loosely. And that's why I noted and put the word obsession in there, because it may be more of an obsession than an addiction. I see an addiction as I'm doing something or using something, be it a chemical or something along that line, that is making my life dysfunctional. It's getting in the way of me being able to, I don't want to say be normal, but for lack of a better way to put it, to function. It's getting in the way of, say, relationships, or it's getting in the way of a career or something to that effect. You feel the same way?
You're absolutely right. And in fact, I would say dysfunctional is probably the best way to say it. I normally say you have a healthy relationship with something or someone, right? So I know that in every sport, there's an element of unhealthy, right? Physically speaking. But when it comes down to psychologically speaking, you have a relationship that doesn't destroy other things, right? Now, you can be hyper-focused, and I would say, to your point, it would become an addiction if you surrender your agency. In other words, you don't have any control anymore, right? What happens with addiction is you need it. I mean, physically need it. And so obsession is you still have agency. You still know that you're pursuing something. You still have the awareness of a goal. It becomes obsessive when you are so tunnel vision focused that you basically forget about everything else. And, arguably, I'm going to call you coach, right? Arguably, coach, that is not bad for the elite, because there's a prime time in life where you can achieve certain things, right? Your body can do it, your mind can do it. It's not bad that they're hyper-focused. But you mentioned something interesting before. You said, I have clients that are not necessarily in the top echelon and still show some of this obsession to the point where it's noticeable, right? And so I would say you have to be careful with that. I'm not going to go the soft way of, balance your life, do some yoga.
Right.
But you have to be mindful. You don't want to burn out yourself, and you don't want to burn the relationship with the rest.
Well, and that's something that I've been married for 32 years, and not just married. I always have to make this point. There are people who are married for a long time, but they're miserable. But I'm actually happily married, and we've raised 4 kids, and I have been forced to find balance throughout the years. But there's always that thought in the back of your mind. What if I was just an egocentric, arrogant, narcissist, solipsistic? We'll go with solipsistic because narcissistic is used way too much. So I'm going to be a little different. But the point being, it's the same thing. So if I was more of a selfish asshole, would I not have been further along? Which is funny because I have mediocre genetics at best. I'm not going to beat the genetic game. So I argue and I say and I tell my clients this, there is the ability to balance things out, still give this endeavor, bodybuilding or whatever endeavor you're focused on, whatever your passion is, to be able to give that the amount of time that is needed to be successful without putting all these other things over here and the rest of your life on hold.
Yeah,
so
that's a very good point.
But that's easier said than done. I mean, I know I catch myself doing that too. So then it brings me back to, because like I said prior to starting, I'm on the fence with this. I can see where it has the potential to be addictive in the sense that it's going to ruin everything else. And you made a good point. It's almost that physical, mental, I have to have this because I cannot function without it. And this is why I go, ooh, could I function without bodybuilding? And we're not talking about gear. We're not talking
Right,
about
right, right.
performance
No, no,
enhancing
no.
drugs. That's another element that
Yeah,
that
yeah.
could be argued. But I'm speaking just from the training and the nutrition, the structure of it,
Yep.
I hate discipline. I hate using the word discipline because when you're passionate about something, I don't think there's much discipline involved. So I
Right.
should probably remove that word. On occasion, there is. There are days where you don't want
More
to train or you don't want
routine
to do
for
it.
you, probably, than discipline.
Yeah, yeah. So you end up with this. Okay, could I function without it? Question.
Right.
And I'm thinking, look, there are days where I can't train, and I'm difficult to be around. So does that qualify as, I'm not running around. Well, I'm not great to be around. I'll leave it at that. But is that part of the addiction? I try to put it with like, okay, I can't drink today. If I'm an alcoholic, if I can't drink today, I'm not going to be fun to be around. What's the difference, Skip?
Right.
Ooh.
Yeah, and I would say there's another word that we can put in the conversation. So we already talked about addiction, which is probably more of a medical term, and we use it, as you say, just to point at something that looks obsessive, right? So then we drop in obsession, but then there's this other word called dependence, right?
Oh,
And
good word.
that
Okay.
is a word where things get a little muddy because there are studies, that scientific studies, that connect some of the things that are very intricately connected to bodybuilding to some of these dependencies, right? So you have people that have this need to work out, right? It's not an addiction. You're not surrendering to it because you have to go to the gym and all that. But in a way, it could create some dependence.
Yeah.
And that's when these things get a little risky, right? If you don't have the agency to have some flexibility, and as a coach, you probably want your athletes to really listen to you, right?
Oh,
and
sure.
Sometimes the ones that deviate completely, they are going in the wrong direction. But at the same time, they have to have some flexibility in life. And if they miss, say, a workout today, then you say, okay, well, I missed, but I can catch up, right? Dependence would be, shit, I missed. Now I'm getting nervous. Or
Right.
I can see cases. I had athletes in bodybuilding that are clients of mine that struggle with different phases, right? Because you have, like in any sport, you have all these different stages where you go and you compete and then you recover and then you go off season and then right?
Sure.
So every phase of those presents different challenges. And for some people, is the stage, right? There's people that have stage fright and they are absolutely paralyzed with just being on stage. And then there are some people that actually enjoy that a lot, but then they go back home and they overeat, right? And so dependence would mean that you are somehow unable to create that flexibility in your mind.
Okay.
Right?
All right.
And so, yeah, it could be. And there are studies I have listed here, things that are really scientific studies about dysmorphia, exercise addiction, quote unquote, body anxiety, social impact. We have to talk about the social media, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So
absolutely,
there are many things that I'm gonna date myself. I'm 59. So when I started this process back in the day, and I was a boxer and a fighter in Muay Thai and kickboxing, and then I coach MMA and all that. So I come from the side of these fight sports, but I have athletes in football and in rowing, and every sport has a lot of demands if you really want to reach the top.
Sure.
The problem is, if you don't have any flexibility in your mind, even though you're following your coach's recipe to the T, that's when it creates a problem.
Okay. Fair enough. And I'm relating what you're saying to my own, because I'm still walking the walk too. I'm still competing after all these years. So it's that reminder that even though I've been doing it for a long time, it's a constant check and balance So, where at certain points of I hate to call it a career because that makes it sound a lot better than what it is, but at certain points in my bodybuilding career, it comes easier and it kind of flows and it comes together. Where at other points, there is almost kind of that forcing or obligatory time. I don't know how many times I've said, you know what? It's a good thing I love doing the training and love walking the walk, because if I didn't, I can't do what I do very convincingly if I'm not able to relate. I guess I could do it, but it's that much better that it's relatable and clients will say or think he's walking the walk. He gets it. He understands. Right. He's a competitor as well. And I work with non-competitors too. But the point being is that there is that relatability there. And being 55 myself, I mean, we're a couple of dinosaurs, right? So, and at the same time, we're bringing a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience to the table. When you said the social media, you can relate, I'm sure, as much as I can, where when we started, there was none of that.
Yep.
So now we're not only being judged as competitors on stage, and you see the competitors, I do daily. Nick is a good example. He can be sixth. Nick Walker can be the sixth best bodybuilder on the planet this year, but he came in off, said he was going to win. So everybody on social media is destroying the guy. And you just look at it, he's the sixth best bodybuilder in the world. So you're not only battling the judges on stage in the moment, but then you have to go home and battle with the people who don't like you. Right. And there are a lot more people on social media than there are in the crowd watching you, at the competition. So coming back to the obsession. Now we have the addiction, we have obsession, and we have the dependency. And I like the depend. I think that's it's very vague. It's very gray. But at the same time, it's another term there that we need to take a look at. So can obsession be and I'm asking, it's kind of a rhetorical question, but can obsession be dysfunctional? I mean, dependency can be dysfunctional. Obsession can be dysfunctional. Addiction is just incredibly dysfunctional.
Absolutely.
So it's telling me, correct me if I'm wrong or if you feel differently, but it's not even as much about whether it's an obsession or a dependency or what it means to you. The question is whether it's dysfunctional, whether it's getting in the way of other things.
You got it. And that's exactly the right approach. And as a coach, because you've lived it, you already know. That's why you said it's rhetorical, so you already probably know the answer to it. But it's true that you could say, let's pick the word obsession, because I think is the easiest one to understand when it comes down to this type of conversation. You can have, we said dysfunctional, right? But you can also have functional obsession.
Sure. Yeah.
And then so functional obsession is like very deliberate, very focused. You are immersed. You're looking for breakthroughs, and I'm gonna say it's a necessary evil, but it is sometimes.
That was my next question. Okay, we're on the same page here. Okay.
Sometimes it is, but it depends, of course, on your goals. But if your goals are, say, you want to be above average in a competition setting, right? In your sport, there are so many things that are, if you want subjective, well, it's subjective to the judges because they know their business, right? So they judge based on their experience, but it's to the rest of the world is subjective, right? Because they see it differently. So the scoring system is your body. you don't score goals, right?
Right. Yep.
Right. So it's very difficult sometimes to measure that. It's connected to your identity, and many of us wear things or have tattoos or whatever to just show proof of your identity. And sometimes it's like, I don't care if you judge me or not, because this is me. Well, guess what? They will judge you.
Yep.
So now all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute. I said that I don't care if people judge me. All of a sudden you better care because they will judge you.
Yeah.
So can you handle that? It's another thing, right? Can you handle the real judgment on something as personal as your identity, right? You're almost naked.
Let's focus on this for a minute, because I think this is something. First, I don't believe anyone who says that they don't care either what other people think or how they look or how someone else perceives. I think that is total bullshit. And so much so that I think the people that care the most are the first ones to say it. Almost the
Positive.
sooner you say it, the more you're basically saying exactly the
Yeah,
opposite.
look at
of that.
me.
It's a facade. You're feigning that you don't care when in reality, you care a lot. And
You
I
care.
used to do it. I did the same thing. And then I came to realize age is a cool thing because I've written articles about this. It's those conversations you have with the ceiling fan. And what I mean by that is while you're lying in bed at night and it's just you and the ceiling fan, you can bullshit the rest of the world. You can have them all fooled. But the ceiling fan is giggling at you, going,
Right.
I know the conversations you have with me, and you're full of crap. So those are those honest conversations that we have with ourselves, is what I'm saying by the metaphor of the ceiling fan.
Yeah.
I'm not talking to my ceiling fan or soliloquizing, if you will, but that's the point. So that is it's kind of a facade. We do care how we're perceived, and whether it be bodybuilding, tattoos is a good example. Tattoos, building muscle. That takes me to the question even of our costume of muscles. I've
Right.
had to question myself: am I trying to build this barrier, almost the crossing of the arms? I'm keeping you out of. It's a very obvious. Well, I mean, it's not obvious to a lot of people, but the crossing the arms, putting something in between you and someone else when you're not comfortable.
Yep.
Is that what I'm doing? Or is that what we do? Or am I doing that, but other people just go, no, I just really like, training and I want to stand out and everything.
Well, I mean,
It's a lot to unwrap. I mean, it really is.
You have a very important point, because this armor that you build, is real, because these are muscles and you can see them, right? And since we are little ones, we dream of being these big heroes, superheroes, because they have the armor, right? Because they have superpowers. So you're building a superpower. It's not like if you are a basketball player, you can make millions of dollars and you can just be shooting the best. Like, I mean, Kobe Bryant took Michael Jordan, whoever you want. But I don't think you feel that they have some sort of a superpower other than that, right? But they don't have an armor. You do.
They're still walking around skinny.
Right.
Tall, but skinny.
Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly.
So this is a very interesting proposition that you're bringing, which is, yes, there's some sort of a mask. That's very true. And then what happens, what I think happens is there is also a level of maturity in life where you don't misinterpret that anymore, right? At the beginning, you start the relationship with bodybuilding with maybe trying to build that armor. Then now, probably at your age, after so many things in life, personal and professional, and having seen athletes, your interpretation of it is different, right?
Yes.
You are probably more objective within the subjectivity of judging a body.
Right.
You're probably more objective. The only thing that worries me, or what I've seen from athletes in different stages of growth, if you want, not body growth, but mental growth, is that they sometimes can reach those points of being dysfunctional, and you have to bring them back.
Right.
So, for example, one of the points that I find fascinating is when there is some sort of disassociation with their body, right? You tend to criticize someone else's body when they are on stage, and you say, oh, it's full of water, it's flat, right? But when you talk about your own body in third person, to me, that is a flag, right? It's flat. It's your body, man. I mean, it's your life.
Yeah.
So don't say it's flat, because now you're disassociating yourself from your own body. So as long as people grow with what you said before, with this functional, still intense, right? There's intensity to this, but it has to be a functional, healthy relationship with a goal in mind, and without elbowing out the rest of your life, right? Because you're gonna need the circle. I need a coach.
Right.
I can't do it without a coach. I'm sorry, but yes, there are many people that are self-coached because they know what they do.
Mhm.
But in general, they are not very well served because the coach is also a relationship.
Well, it's
Right.
funny that you bring that up because after prepping myself forever, I've never worked with a coach in the 41 years that I've been in bodybuilding, as far as working out and competing and everything. And I've been an online coach for almost 25 years. I mean, literally since 2001. So this last year, I realized, based on the 2 years prior, I can't make these calls anymore for myself. I'm not reading things for whatever reason. I'm not reading them correctly. It took a lot of insight to be able to find out why, and this is why. I have now such high expectations, and I assume that everyone else does, of me, because of my position in the industry. It's almost like that nagging, I'll use the word fear, of being judged against what I used to be. And I didn't used to be an Olympia competitor, but age has happened.
Yeah.
So I'm comparing myself without wanting to what I was before. And I feel that, or assume that, everyone else is going to do the same thing. So then I have higher expectations than I ever did before. And it was not fun. So I found myself driving myself into the ground. I could realistically assess and go, yeah, you're in great condition, but it needs to be more. You
Right.
have to work harder. And then I end up digging this hole that I can't get out of.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I go with the coach, and then I go, oh my goodness, this is awesome. And now my stress levels, all I have to do is execute. This is great. Until it didn't go as well as it should have, based on the fact that, oh my goodness, if I were making these calls, I would have seen this. I knew this. I know my body. So it ended up kind of blowing up in my face. It wasn't horrible. And I have no bad things to say about the coach. The coach did what the coach normally does. But it just came back to that type of a situation. So
Right.
I get you. I'm on the same page. And I'll be honest, this is a therapy session for me, because as much as I want this to provide information to the viewers, this is what's been on my brain for quite a while. And I go back and forth with that addiction label or moniker, and I don't know what
Yeah.
it's supposed to be. And then the question becomes, if you do want to be above average, or you want to be great at something, does it require obsession? Does it require that you are addicted? I would argue that the addiction part, I don't think is ever necessary,
No.
because that becomes dysfunctional.
That's
But I do
unhealthy.
think there are some people who would say, if it takes me being addicted, if it takes me not having relationships or a career, and I'm just going to live and breathe this, and I don't care about this or that, there are people who do that.
It could
Healthy,
be,
no.
but listen, at least in my experience, even in other sports with top athletes, I mean the top of the top in other sports, responsibly, you have to tell them, even though that might be your instinct to be so good that you sacrifice everything else, it's not a good instinct.
No.
Right? Now, it's different to be functionally focused and say, when I'm training, when I'm eating, when I'm posing, when I'm doing all these things, I'm 100% in, right? That is a definition of high performance.
Mhm.
You perform and you create a system of performance. I call it a system of mastery because that's what I like to say.
Sure.
So, but you create a system of performance when you start incorporating all these things and integrating them in your life without elbowing out the rest of your life.
Okay.
But it's hard, right? As you said, it's easier said than done,
Mhm.
especially if you're young, where, I have had clients that are young that have bad relationship with their parents. They are in school and they are competing for the first time and and it's like, okay, well, it's a different reality, right? It's a very different reality. They have to mature. But in people that are, say, competitive age at their prime, they can still focus intensively without sacrificing everything else. It can
Agreed.
be done. It can be done. It's difficult, though. The majority of our meetings with athletes is like, okay, for example, if you're prepping for a competition, not your prep week, but before, right? The weeks before,
Uh-huh.
you are gradually focusing and getting into this delivery mode, right? You can't say you're going to win. I never say
Right.
to anybody you're going to win, because this is not about results. But the system itself, it has to be built in a way that you will likely get better results than the rest if you do all these things.
Exactly.
Right.
And a much healthier approach
healthy
to
relationship with it.
Yeah. And I like that, because that's so much more of a healthy approach, because you can't control who shows up.
Oh, no.
All you can do is control. I mean, I guess you could Jeff Gillooly someone in the knee. And that's an old reference, is it not? Tanya Harding. I'm sure there's someone younger is listening going, I don't know who Jeff Gillooly is. What's he saying? But the point is unless you're going to club them in the knee, they're going to show up, and you don't know who's going to show up. So the best you can do is control the variables that you can, and put the in at least in bodybuilding standards, put the best package that you can on stage and let the chips fall where they may. And then you're typically, or should be, good with the outcome if you don't win. Maybe not excited, but accepting of it, because the thought process, or the healthy thought process, is I did everything I could do to be the best, and I was my best, and I just got beat by someone who was better than me.
Right.
It happens. It's okay.
Right. And it's also okay to want to win, because you don't want to go there to lose.
Right.
But as you say, then the result, it's what happens that day, right? The other in other sports where they are more kind of, bodybuilding is not a reaction sport.
It's a pageant.
Right. It's a performance, right?
Yeah.
It's a live performance. And even though they're comparing you with other physiques and all that, you're not reacting to the other's offensive game or defensive game, right? It's not reactive in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
But even in that case, a professional football team knows that they're going to go there to win. They're going to do the best they can till the very last second. But then the really good ones are the ones that can actually pick up themselves and go train the next day.
Yep.
Right? Because you know that, again, the system of performance is the system that gives you the continuity as an athlete to perform as best you can, as many times you can. But you can't guarantee results, right? So if there's people out there that say, oh, I have the best system and you're going to win every time. No, you're going to want to win every time, but can't guarantee results.
Now, is it possible, though, that it's different with bodybuilding versus, say, your example of an NFL athlete, simply because we carry our results and our progress with us?
Right.
So it plays more into our identity, I think, and how we not only look at ourselves, but how we feel we're perceived by other people.
That is exactly right. That is precisely the point about bodybuilding being different. It's like an MMA, right? Because it's multiple arts at the same time, right? You have to do a lot of things. But if you are judged in 1 minute, then you are naked, I mean, truly, literally naked. There's no escape from judgment. You will be judged, right? It doesn't matter, as you say in your conversation with a fan.
Right.
No, wow, yes.
No getting around that one.
You will be judged.
Right.
And then it's exactly right. It's your identity. It's truly who you are, right? The scoreboard is your body. And so it's a very difficult thing to do at competitive level if your mental state is not there. Yeah. That's why I insist a lot. We were talking about addiction, right? There is a way to avoid being dysfunctional if you're mature enough, or if your mind resets you to the point where you say, I still am in control. I still have agency.
Okay.
Right?
So this brings me, something kind of hit my brain while you were talking about the maturity component. And I can touch on that, or I can relate to that, because I started when I was 14, and that motivation was far different than what that motivation is now to continue what I'm doing. The best way to explain it is, I think I wanted to be seen as more mature or older at that point when I was young. Now I continue to do it chasing my youth. I feel younger, and at least from the neck down, I look younger as I'm continuing to pursue the endeavor. And of course, you have the hormone issues that arguably we age because of hormones. So, there are people who battle the hormone, issue too. And when I say battle it by trying to at least hormonally be 30 years old versus 55. And I'll admit it, I'm pretty transparent. I'm in that crowd. So what I'm wondering though is I don't want to go with maturity as much as I want to go with, is there an insecurity component that motivates a lot of the people who excel and I don't even know if it's primarily the people who excel, but the people who go after this end up in the obsessive, dependent, arguably addicted area or category because of that insecurity. I was going to say the people who excel and are good at what they do, but there's a lot of genetic predisposition in not only bodybuilding, but the NFL and things like that. And I've had clients in the NFL, and there didn't seem to be much of an insecurity issue there. They seem to be very clear, at least on the outside, of who they are, what they were doing, and that sort of thing. So is there anything to that with the insecurity playing a role in that obsessive? It almost seems obvious.
Yes, yeah, it could be, it could well be, and as going back to your analogy of wearing a mask or just building an armor,
Mm-hmm.
this kind of sport sounds like it's the best way to protect you from your insecurity, right? Because
sure.
you build this kind of physical barrier in between you and the world. So it could be that there's some insecurity. It really depends. It's difficult to generalize on that. But you mentioned, you're bringing a point about genetics that I love when I hear this idea. Obviously, genetics matter, right? But I always say every person is different, and we as coaches and you as coaches, you have to always remember that every person has a different story. So genetics from the neck down are probably more clear to you than genetics from the neck up.
Right.
And so we have to also listen carefully to some of these things, because if there are insecurities there, the biggest problem with insecurity is that it's probably connected to fear.
Mm-hmm.
And fear is highly paralyzing and is one of the sources of ego, right? So there's a lot of psychological stuff going when fear is involved, right? And so if you do things, again, going back to, being self-motivated and and agency, if you still have that awareness that you are doing this because you want to, not because of fear, then it's good. But when things become a little difficult, when you start doing things out of fear, and sometimes people fear the coaches, or fear they
Right.
check in because they think that their body sucks,
Yep.
or whatever. So I think as coaches, you have to be very, very aware that if things start to look like fear, that can be dysfunctional. That can lead to addiction and dependence and things like that, because there's no other motivation there than fear.
Right.
So it's the worst possible scenario when you have fear and you don't treat it or you don't address it. You have to evolve and you have to grow. And that's why I keep talking about mastery.
Right. No, I agree with you. I think that's my biggest issue with the word obsession. It is overused. And I know this sounds very Facebook meme-ish, but what is the term? What is the phrase? Obsession is the word used by I'm paraphrasing, but by underachievers to describe, overachievers. And there is a lot of that. When we don't relate, I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of why society has turned to crap and we treat each other like crap, because social media has made it very easy to do that. But that very quick judgment, or I always say resentment. It's not envy, it's not jealousy. I think it's resentment. When someone has something you don't have, not you personally, but If someone has something that you would want, but you don't have it, there becomes this resentment. I always laugh and say, it's like, well, that's weird. When I drove a lifted truck, I was told that I had a small dick. So then I drive an M5 BMW, and I'll be damned if I don't still have a small dick. Like, I was laughing with my wife the other day. I'm like, am I the last one in the room to know that I have a small dick? I can't figure this out. But my point being that there's always something that we're being judged on. And I think that can, in its own way, I'll ask you, can that feed fear? Can we be fearful of being judged by other people? And I think so. And I think that's why we tend to hide it by saying things like, it doesn't matter and I don't care and things like, because of course we do.
Yeah.
It may not be fear with everybody, but we care.
It can, and it has been amplified with social media. That in the past, in a sport like this, there was body dysmorphia. Now there's digital dysmorphia.
Yep.
One of the key things is to avoid distractions. You are completely blocked out from social media, right? But
Right.
you have to know when to stop and when to be present. So issues here, like patience in your sport. You don't build muscle from one day to the next. You have to be present, and you have to try to avoid the dysfunction when it becomes dysfunctional of the distractions that you need, right? I mean, you
Right.
have your mirror at home, you have your coach, they tell you how you look. Well, that's enough.
Mm-hmm.
The other issue with this sport compared to others, and we have to be honest, is there's not a lot of money in it, right?
No.
So there's this sometimes even need, if you want, to try to monetize every single move and everything, right? Every training session, every move they make, every da-da-da. And that can become a problem.
Yeah.
For the athlete, when you don't need all that to be the best.
Right.
And so sometimes what I tell people is we all need money. And in fact, I wanted to say, when I talk about mastery, I talk about 4 quadrants in life. I talk about the intellectual side, your learning, then obviously your health, your body, your physique, your athleticism, and then you have your finances. So the finances are important, and it can be a big stressor in life. But sometimes if what you want to be, or you want to do something that brings you money, you have to be the best at it, not to just, because the money's not going to come if your result is minimum. Go big, yes. Maybe you have to be obsessive a little bit, yes, functionally, because you're not going to forget your financial quadrant or your relationships quadrant.
Right.
If you are going after your athleticism because you're an athlete, that's great. Try to monetize every second of your life, which is what digital media is doing.
Oh, yeah.
Then you're going to have a big problem.
I want to go one more kind of tangent on the topic before I let you go. And I want to say the information is great. I don't want to speak for the viewers, even though I always say I'm representative of them, because a lot of the questions I have, are a lot of the questions that the viewers have. Body dysmorphia.
Yep.
I want to touch on that because I see that it's possible, but I also see, I don't like the label. I don't like that being an actual, not diagnosis, but the term bothers me, and I'll tell you why. I don't think that wanting to be better and seeing ourselves for our weaknesses and wanting to improve the weaknesses is necessarily body dysmorphia. Body dysmorphia has to be far more extreme, that to the point where you look at yourself and you just don't see what's in the mirror. And we've seen it. I know I have seen plenty of things on social media. Everybody listening to us right now has as well, where, you know, they're very, and no one knows everybody's story. Don't get me wrong. And I am a big supporter of people who get on stage who may not be in condition to win, but they've got a story. They were in a car accident and they were told they would never walk, and they've lost 100 pounds. You know what? That's their story. And quite frankly, I'm going to remember their story
right
before I remember the guy's story who won. So there's that. Real quick, I need to tell this story very quickly. I was judging in Colorado. It's been years, 2009, 2010. And a guy came out and he was shaking quite a bit, was not in very good condition, but was smiling, was just loving the time on stage. And I found out later, between prejudging and the night show, that this guy had cerebral palsy, and he went on stage to set an example for his son, who was in the crowd and was going to watch, and watched him prepare for it and everything else, and then watched him at the show that day. He took dead last. But I can't tell you who won that show. Right. So the guy who took dead last had such a positive impact. I mean, I was choked up when I heard it. And I'm kind of an insensitive asshole. So, for me to choke up at that time, not as much now. I'm far more compassionate and emotional than I was when I was younger. But the point is it just literally made me choke on my tongue. And I think that says a lot. And now I think since that situation, I am very defensive when I see someone or hear someone in the crowd, or I see something on social media where they go after someone on stage, or they say they don't have a right to be up. They absolutely have the right to be up there. The better question is, why are you even questioning? Right. Who are you? Who are you to think that you can question who can get on stage as long as they're qualified? Right. Now, I did go down a rabbit hole with that, and I apologize. But the dysmorphia thing bothers me because I think the fact that we want to work on our weaknesses, we see our weaknesses, we might over focus on them. But I think that to be dysmorphic or to really qualify for having body dysmorphia, you have to have a very you just have to be incredibly almost delusional to see yourself unrealistically.
Right, I agree. It's a condition, right? So you probably haven't been diagnosed with muscle dysmorphia. Part of the challenge with this sport, and it goes back to the uniqueness of this, right? Is that this particular one, for example, I've seen clients that come out of their competition and, the judges say you have to grow. And the first question is, I don't want to be fat. And the coach says, well, I'll help you grow. You have to eat more. You have to do all these things, blah, blah, blah. And then we'll work on the fat later. Right? Right. Fat, crazy fat, but it comes with the territory to be able to accept your off-season look versus competition look. Sure. And so it's part of what's difficult about this sport is that you carry yourself different looks, and some people judge you also for that. So you feel the pressure from family, friends. Like, why you were looking so good? You look like a swimmer in the summer. What happened? Right?
Did you stop working out? Like, I'm stronger than I've ever been.
Exactly.
I'm just not as lean as I was. Yeah.
Exactly. To the extent that you can handle these changes in your body as normal, right? Because the coach is going to tell you you're doing good, or let's fix it by doing this and this and this. If you listen a lot to other people and other voices, and again, this multiplicity of mirrors that is social media, you can be out there that you can actually develop some issues. You could develop some mental issues. So, to your point, can we all claim that dysmorphia is exaggerated? Of course. I mean, there's gymnasts that have it. There's some ballerinas that have it. But you have to be a really dark place to have a one of these conditions. Okay. But if you don't accept your body, that's also understandable. Right? You have to talk to your coach and say, okay, tell me the truth. Am I looking okay? And the coach will tell you.
Well, and I think the label is probably overused, and I may not be using it in the right context because, here's an example. As bodybuilders, we tend to say, oh my gosh, I'm fat. Right, now, if the average person says, and I see this sometimes with my wife's girlfriends, like, oh my God, I'm so fat. And then, all of her friends go, oh no, you're just so fine. You're gorgeous. You're not fat. And you're like, no, you're 200 pounds overweight. You are definitely fat. Why don't you tell her she's fat? I mean, that's not something I would say either. But the point is they're kind of fishing. When we do it, we're literally saying, okay, we're fat by bodybuilding standards. We're not saying we're fat by a normal person's standards. And I don't think most people are typically fishing when they do that, and especially when clients do it to me. So we have, I guess my point is this, we have different standards within bodybuilding, what big or huge means, or shredded. There's a good one, ripped.
Right.
You're not ripped, you have a dad bod. You probably are leaner than you were in most of your friends, and leaner than you were a couple years ago. But
Right.
that's not ripped, bro. That's not shredded. That's just lean. That's dad bod shit. But I think that's why it's kind of overused. You know, it reminds me of Dunning-Kruger and just things that we throw out sometimes and kind of diagnose everybody when we don't like what they're saying because it doesn't fit our narrative. So I'm going down a bit of a rabbit hole there, which I don't need to do.
But I think it's good to, and as you said, maybe we're wrapping up this, but I think it's good. Again, I guess the words, a healthy relationship with your sport, with yourself, right?
There you go.
You
That's where I was going.
You have to just have a healthy relationship with yourself.
Yep.
Functional. I think that is also a very important point, that functional would be, is adding value, is getting you in the direction of your athletic goal, whether it's through diet or through exercise or through posing standard, as you said.
Right.
That is functional. Dysfunctional is going to take you away from the goal, believe it.
Well, and I can encapsulate this to end it, I think, quite succinctly by saying, and I've told this to clients too over the years. I said a lot of things over the last 25 years, but this one stands out. What good is it if you hit the goal, you achieve your goal, you win, you're standing there on stage, but when and you're loving it, but when you come off stage, nobody's there. You're by yourself because you have pushed everyone in your life away from you. Friends, family, kids. Is it really going to be worth it in the end? Find the balance.
Agreed.
I think I deserve an honorary
point of this
doctorate.
episode.
Exactly. And I say honorary. On that note, we got to get to getting. This is Skip and Dr. Kiko.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, it's been great having you. I appreciate it. How can people reach out to you if they have questions or if they want to consult with you and pay you a lot of money that you are definitely worth?
Well, I would say Instagram probably is the fastest one. Everybody uses it. Dr. Kiko.
Very cool. True Nutrition. If you need Team Skip protein, use the truenutrition.com link. Save 10% on not just Team Skip protein, but every supplement they sell. From Skip and Dr. Kiko, it's been a business doing pleasure with you.